you are. And over again, you say you love me, but you try to hurt me. And over again, you say you love me, but just wanna fool me. And over again, I fight these feelings, but you're fooling me. And over again, overthinking in my head. Over and over again.
The fluorescent bulbs overhead buzzed like trapped wasps, and Lena did her best to tune them out. Her desk, littered with coffee cups and crumpled spreadsheets, shook as she slammed another drawer shut. The clock on the pale white wall seemed to mock her. The office had emptied hours ago, and now it was only 13 minutes to 10 o'clock p.m. But Lena didn't have the luxury of caring. Not when she was desperate to keep the job that paid her mother's endless hospital bills and late rent checks. Heels clicked on faux marble tile. Lena's head shot up, her body locking. Evelyn Voss never stays at the office this late. Like a prairie dog, Lena rose and straightened her spine. Voss Industries' CEO stood in the doorway to the receptionist area, the glow from the hallway lights spilling in around her. As one of two assistants to Evelyn, Lena didn't interact with her much. There seemed to be an unspoken hierarchy, and the other assistant had more direct contact than she did. At first, Lena wondered why. But after a time, she stopped wondering and started thanking the universe that she didn't have to deal with the menacing woman. "Miss Voss," Lena fought to control a stutter. I was just finishing the Q3 reports. I know the deadline." The command was soft, but strong enough to stop Lena in her tracks. She sank into her seat as Evelyn stepped into the dim area. Her tailored charcoal suit clung to her like a second skin, and her platinum hair was knotted into a high bun, sitting perfectly atop her head. Lena became conscious of her own appearance, the fraying edges of a blouse that should have been discarded a long time ago, the drugstore makeup that couldn't stay where she put it on her face, and the split ends of a long bob overdue for a trimming. Evelyn's eyes seemed to study these glaring oversights too. Lena's hands moved to cover something until she realized there was no point, and they came back to rest on her lap. "You missed dinner." It wasn't a question. Lena blinked, her mind blanking. Yeah, lunch too." Evelyn's lips twitched. She began to circle her desk, examining its state like a predator watching its dinner. Her perfume infiltrated the air around Lena. Bergamot, and something else Lena couldn't place. Sandalwood? "Miss Hart, why do you work here?" A million different reasons flooded Lena's brain and almost tumbled out. "I'm desperate. I need the health insurance. No one else hired me for months." Instead, silence and a breath were all that escaped her. What was she expected to say? What was the correct answer? Evelyn didn't wait too long. Coming round to the front of Lena's desk, she leaned down, bracing her palms on the desk. "You're competent. Not exceptional, but competent. Trainable, even. Yet it seems like you're always tripping forward, always straining for something. I pay you a fair salary, and we don't pay overtime, but you stay late. Why?" "I cannot afford to lose this job." Lena settled on, "I have obligations." "Ah." Evelyn straightened, crossing her arms. I'll hazard a guess. Debt, family, something of the like. Then she tilted her head, jade eyes assessing. Lena couldn't decipher the look in them, but it made her feel like a piece of meat. You're drowning, aren't you? The truth lodged in Lena's throat. How does she know? Not that someone couldn't guess by her state of dress, but Lena couldn't understand why Evelyn Voss, of all people, would care. For the second time, Lena stayed quiet. I'll have a car take you home. Lena's inhale was sharp. Oh, that's not necessary. It's raining, Evelyn said, nodding to the floor-to-ceiling windows. The usually clear lighting of the night skyline was mottled and blurred by water clinging to the panes. And you'll be missing the last train in less than 15 minutes. Both pairs of eyes glanced at the wall clock, but Evelyn snapped back to Lena quicker. She pulled out a black credit card from her suit jacket pocket and slid it onto the desk between them. Buy yourself dinner also. Lena frowned, looking down at the card. The name Evelyn Voss was embossed in gold underneath 12 numbers that protected a lot of money. I can't. Miss Voss, there's
Consider
no way.
it an investment in your productivity here, Miss Hart.
Her gaze raised, and she shook her head.
No, really, I can't.
You can. Lena didn't mistake the hint of displeasure in her boss's voice.
Or you can continue pretending you don't need help until you collapse at your desk, which...
Evelyn leaned down onto the desk again, her face much closer this time.
Would be inconvenient for me.
Evelyn watched from her penthouse balcony as the town car began to pull away from the curb, Lena's hunched form barely visible through the tinted rear window. She sipped on the cool bourbon in her Glencairn, swirling it as the car merged into flowing traffic. Lena Hart was perfect. Her cracks were visible, the gauntness in her face from missing one too many meals, the bad nerves that made her hands shake from time to time, the desperation as she begged accounting almost every 2 weeks to expedite her check. Cracks so big, Evelyn had no problem slotting a pry bar in between. An hour later, a notification vibrated Evelyn's phone. Her private bank account. $14.89 at a local 24-hour diner. She smiled. The first 2 boxes of her mental checklist were filled in. Create a need. Fill that need. If Lena had any sense, she'd know that nothing was truly free. But by the time she became wise, Evelyn hoped she'd be too addicted to the hand feeding her to bite it. She had done this many times over. The thrill of the hunt in the beginning was fresh and exhilarating, but she hoped that Lena would get past the sticking point. No one else had. Evelyn dialed Thomas, her other assistant. She didn't need 2 assistants. Thomas was capable on his own. However, he was the contingency plan when others failed, the safety net between her hunting stints. He knew his place and never overstepped.
Miss Voss?
His voice sounded tired. She didn't care.
Cancel Lena Hart's subway pass effective tomorrow and place my weekend meeting with Hart International on her calendar and mark it mandatory. Yes, Miss Voss.
She ended the call and retreated into her head, staring out at the rain pelting the pavement below. Lena would fight. Common sense would rear its ugly head and snap at the girl to get out. Evelyn would then decide how much she wanted to snuff out that voice. Would it be worth it? With others, she let them cut and run. Nothing extraordinary struck her to let them stay. She wondered about Lena. There was a hunger there. But would it be enough of a driving force? The decaffeinated coffee was bitter and had a slight metallic tang to it, but Lena slurped it down anyway. The diner was barren, save for the old trucker at the other end of the establishment. She'd been processing her odd encounter that evening when an invoice came through from her mother's hospital. Payment overdue. $2,740.58. Failure to resolve this invoice will result in the termination of services. Lena squinted at the 58 cents. It felt like an unnecessary shakedown. Couldn't they have just rounded up or down to the nearest dollar? Her mental math wasn't leading to a solution. She needed to pay her rent in less than a week, and she needed something in the bank for groceries. She scrolled through her phone, seeing which bills she could push off until the next payday. But all of them fell between the two checks. She could try to bargain for an advance on part of the second with Chuck from accounting again, but he was getting tired of her. She didn't blame him. And Lena didn't think the hospital would extend another payment plan, since she was behind on the previous one. She sucked her teeth and dragged a slow hand across her face. In between her fingers, she caught a glimpse of the black card Evelyn had so blithely given her. As far as she was concerned, there was an infinite amount of money sitting right in front of her, contained on a little plastic card less than a millimeter thick. Lena reached out and touched it, her fingers skimming over the lasered numbers. Was it considered stealing? Evelyn's words from earlier replayed. Consider it an investment in your productivity here, Miss Hart. Or would this be just another investment, according to her? Even if she had to pay it back, this was one creditor with whom she could probably negotiate on time. Lena bounced a leg in nervousness and took a deep breath. She wasn't underhanded. She wasn't a thief. But bad situations made good people do bad things. Evelyn also seemed to understand her plight, even if she didn't know the details. Surely, she'd understand this. Would she even notice the charge? This was likely a drop in a bucket. The kind waitress who'd welcomed her in came to refill her water cup. "Oh, sorry," Lena muttered, noting the time on her phone. But the waitress, Hope, as her name tag said, merely shook her head. "Stay as long as you like, honey. I ain't kicking you out." The woman had a motherly smile, like she understood Lena was living in a house of cards. It reminded Lena of how her mother used to look at her when she was too stressed. When the waitress disappeared, Lena slid the card closer. "I'll pay her back." An alert made Evelyn reach for her nightstand after midnight. $2,740.58. West Valley Medical Center. She processed the charge before a laugh escaped her in the dark. What a stupid girl Lena was. Lena stood at the metro, staring at the machine in disbelief. Every time she swiped her pass, a red X flashed back at her. She'd just refilled the damn thing a week ago. It should work. She didn't have enough to refill the Metro card again, Maybe the card itself was corrupted somehow. It was still raining. She was already running late, and the walk to work would take just under an hour. She had an umbrella, of course, but the rain above was torrential. That little black square seemed to be searing a hole in the pocket of her slacks. Before she could berate herself for it, she took it to the MetroCard machine, deciding to just purchase a temporary pass. What was another $10? Lena selected the appropriate options, and when it came time, she inserted the black card. Payment declined. Lena read the 2 words over and over. Then she tried again, tapping the touchscreen much faster this time. Payment declined. Tears of frustration sprang to her eyes. Not only had she stolen from her boss, taking advantage of her kindness, but now she was going to be late for the only job that would help her pay it back. She didn't need to start racking up infractions. Her cell buzzed in her pocket, and she removed it, noticing the number was unknown. Hello?
My town car is parked in front of the metro station. Go get into it.
Then the phone went dead. The elevator ride was long. Lena watched the numbers change as she reminded herself to breathe. She rehearsed what she'd say to Evelyn Voss over and over, none of it sounding good enough. I stole from you, but for a good reason. What's $3,000 to you after all? She rolled her eyes, agitated with how stupid she'd been. The metal door slid open, and she eyed her small cubicle in the corner, wondering if she should seek out Evelyn Voss before she came looking for Lena. Was it wiser to just get it over with? She didn't need to wait for the answer. Thomas appeared in front of her, a clipboard in hand.
Miss Voss is expecting you,
he said, waving her toward the imposing executive's doors at the end of the hallway. Lena's gut seized, but she obediently went, clenching and unclenching her fists. When she pushed open the heavy doors, there Evelyn Voss was, perched at the end of her wide desk in front of the leather chairs reserved for guests. Lena had only been inside the spacious office a handful of times. Leather, glass, and steel composed a sweet fit for an executive of Evelyn's caliber. Lena's eyes found Evelyn's. A cocked eyebrow and an extended hand toward one of the leather chairs was all the communication she received. Gingerly, Lena moved forward and lowered herself into the chair. They were closer than the previous night, and Lena didn't know where to rest her gaze.
Miss Voss,
she cleared her throat.
I should apologize. I mean, we need to talk about something?
Lena didn't know if she knew about the medical bill, or if she was shooting herself in the foot. But she withdrew the card from her pocket.
Oh?
Evelyn's expression was mild and unreadable.
The hospital bill from last night, I didn't mean to... Well, no, I just wasn't thinking. I plan to pay you back, though, even for the dinner. You can deduct it from my paycheck. I can go right now and tell...
Evelyn stopped her.
Do you believe I care about a charge totaling less than $3,000?
Lena frowned.
Of course. It's a lot of money.
Evelyn repositioned herself and recrossed her legs at the ankle.
To whom?
To me.
A lot of people.
Her boss hummed.
People of a certain tax bracket, I'm sure. However, do you know what is valuable to me, Lena?
It felt like a trick question, so Lena kept her mouth shut and shook her head.
Loyalty.
Evelyn bent at the waist and plucked the card from Lena's hand, her glossy black nails glinting under the office lights.
You didn't squander my generosity on something illogical or trivial. Instead, a medical bill and a measly dinner. Very dutiful.
she said, glancing down at the matte black card. Lena couldn't decipher her tone. Was Evelyn being facetious?
It was an emergency. And yet, you didn't come to me. You could have asked. An option that has always been available to you.
Lena opened and closed her mouth a few times.
I'm sorry, what? What option? Ask for what?
She asked, desperate to understand.
For more.
Evelyn bent suddenly, pinning Lena with a look.
Water is rising above your head, Lena. You're sinking. And though a life raft exists in front of you, you haven't thought to climb in.
Lena swallowed, the sound audible between the two of them. How was she expected to climb in when she hadn't known the raft existed until yesterday? Besides, the thought of asking a CEO for personal help was absurd. Evelyn leaned back, tossing the card backward onto her desk.
You should be concerned. Your landlord will probably be filing an eviction notice soon.
Lena blanched, her heart rate doubling. Sure, she was behind, but she'd told her landlord that she would start paying him back with her next paycheck. He'd even agreed. But it hadn't been in writing, and if he found a tenant who was willing to pay him more, damn it.
How do you know that? I pay attention.
Evelyn's voice dropped, its edge softening.
Lena, you work for me. Your chaos is mine. Let me fix it.
Lena couldn't stop emotion from intruding on her voice and vision.
But why?
Her boss smiled.
Because I enjoy fixing broken things.
Lena's independence was pesky. It wasn't something Evelyn couldn't handle. It was annoying, all the same. She watched Lena pace around her shabby apartment through the live feed on her monitor. A gift from the new maintenance team at Lena's apartment building. The camera, hidden in a smoke detector, showed every detail of the boxy abode. The yellowed, peeling wallpaper, the thrifted mattress, the poorly hung and water-damaged cabinets. Lena insisted on speaking with her landlord, trying to fix the inevitable.
Please, just one more week. I get paid.
No, you're out Friday. No excuses.
The man's tone was curt and impolite. Then he hung up. Evelyn sipped the peppermint tea from her mug, navigating over to her email. She clicked send on the email she'd composed when Lena left her office. From Voss at vossindustries.com. Subject, performance bonus.
Miss Hart, your overtime hours last quarter exceeded expectations. Enclosed is a discretionary bonus to reflect your dedication. EV.
Attached was a direct deposit receipt for $4,200 to cover Lena's rent arrears. She looked on as her assistant's phone dinged. She'd slid to the floor, her back against the front door, and her head in her hands. Lena picked up her phone and tapped on the screen, covering her mouth as she read the email. Evelyn watched her swipe over to what she assumed was her bank account.
No way. No way,
Lena whispered. Yes, Lena. Evelyn considered calling, but decided to wait. She had other things to care for. Scrolling to Lena's employee file, she reviewed her changes, the recent edits glowing back at her. Housing stipend approved. $2,500 a month, conditional upon continued employment. Healthcare, full coverage expansion, including family dependents. Lena would be notified of the changes tomorrow by HR. Evelyn knew she was pushing quite hard, but something in her gut told her to proceed. She placed a call to Thomas.
Cancel my afternoon, Thomas.
But the board will be expecting you.
Reschedule.
she ordered, standing from her desk and smoothing her skirt. "I have a property viewing of a studio in Midtown. And call Lance. Tell him to ensure the property can be properly secured." She smiled as another box in her mind ticked. Replace the cage.
What are you requesting?
Thomas asked. Evelyn could hear him writing. Soundproofing, cameras, the usual. Also, keyless entry, and a code that only I hold. The loft studio was the largest Lena had ever seen. It was clear that the developer could have split it into rooms and had chosen not to, based on open concept aesthetics. Lena didn't care about any of the details, though. The brand new apartment had never been lived in before, and was hers. She ran a hand over the smooth marble countertop. The gracious stipend had covered the deposit, the movers, and even a modest leather sofa that Lena would have never thought to choose. Lena hadn't wanted to accept the rent money, but Evelyn refused to allow her to sink into any more debt. "You needn't owe anyone else money." She tried to decline the apartment as well, but Evelyn played it down. "It's a studio, Lena. It's hardly anything worth fussing over. Use it until you can get your feet under you." She'd pushed back on that, but Evelyn refused to hear no, smoothly talking her down until Lena had no choice but to accept. A nervous question had begun wriggling in the back of her mind. What does she want from me? But standing in the apartment now, that questioning thought grew. Her phone buzzed. Another unknown number. "Check the fridge." Lena raised her eyebrows, but went to open the fridge door that blended in with the high-end cabinetry. Inside, on the bottom shelf, were bottles of mineral and sparkling water. On another shelf, an array of colorful prepackaged salads. On the shelf above that, prepackaged meals Lena could easily heat, consisting of different meats and grilled vegetables. In the door, a black envelope sat on a clean shelf. Her name glinted in golden foil lettering. Lena removed it and opened it. Out came a key card and a note. "Welcome home. E.V." The key card had a message of its own on the back. "Property of Voss Industries. Do not duplicate." Lena turned the key card over in her fingers a few times. Somehow, it felt like the message didn't only apply to the card.